All right, let's dive into this neuro review doc, kind of like exploring the most complex control center, except it makes you you.
Yeah, and what's crazy is we still don't fully get how it makes consciousness, emotions, all that.
Right. Mind blowing. Okay, so it starts basic like central nervous system, brain, and spinal cord, then the peripheral system branching out, but there's got to be more to it than just, where they are.
Oh, for sure. It's about two-way communication. Sensory nerves always sending info to the brain, and motor nerves that carry instructions back out, all super fast.
So, like a loop, not just one way. Makes me think about reflexes, how we react before even thinking.
Exactly. Touch a hot stove, your hand yanks back before the pain really hits because the spinal cord does that directly. Brain gets the message a tiny bit later.
Oh, like a backup system for emergencies? Okay, let's zoom into the brain itself. This doc breaks it down, but instead of each part one by one, what's the big picture of how it all works together?
Specialization, but also integration. You got the cerebrum, basically the boss for thinking, personality, memory, but it doesn't work alone.
So, even though we say cerebrum is thought, it's not doing everything by itself.
Nope. Needs input, like from the thalamus, that's a sensory filter, deciding what's important enough to send up to the cortex for processing.
Interesting. Preventing overload. What else is key for the cerebrum to work right?
Well, the cerebellum, we think balance, coordination, but it's huge for smooth movements, learning new motor skills. Imagine, like, learning to dance without a good cerebellum.
Oof, yeah. Disaster. Okay, cerebrum, thalamus, cerebellum. What about the parts that keep us alive, like the basics?
That's where stuff like the medulla oblongata comes in.
Yeah.
Heartbeat, breathing, stuff you don't think about, but kind of have. Kind of important for a deep dive, right?
Definitely. So we're focused on learning, processing info, but it's all happening on top of these basic functions, brains controlling it all, like multitasking, but on a huge scale.
And it's all thanks to billions of tiny neurons, the building blocks.
Right. Doc gets into neuron structure, but what's the key thing for how they actually talk to each other?
It's all electrical and chemical signals. Neuron gets input through its dendrites, and if the signal, if it's strong enough, it triggers this impulse, electrical, down the axon like a wire.
And that's where myelin comes in, right? The insulation makes it faster.
Exactly. Without it, signals would be so slow we'd react way slower to everything.
Like dial-up versus, high-speed internet for our nerves. Okay, so the signal goes down the axon, but how does it get to the next neuron? They don't touch, right?
Right. That's the synapse, the tiny gap. When the signal hits the end of the axon, it releases these chemical messengers, neurotransmitters.
And those cross the gap, bind to the next neuron, new electrical impulse, and it keeps going, like a relay race, but with trillions of runners passing the baton.
Great way to see it. Now, this doc mentions neurological assessments. Why should we care about those, even if we're not, doctors?
Well, if the nervous system's the control center for everything, being able to assess it is like seeing how healthy we are overall. It's about like understanding when things go wrong.
Exactly. Like the Glasgow Coma Scale. It's for checking consciousness after brain injury, and if the score goes down, that's bad news. Shows how delicate this system is.
Good point. Yeah. So complex, but injury, illness can mess it up.
Yeah. And knowing how pros assess that, well, it makes you appreciate how balanced it all has to be.
Okay, so besides Glasgow Coma Scale, what other assessments are common?
There's the Per-RLA assessment, all about the pupils in your eyes. It stands for pupils equal, round, reactive to light, and accommodation. Checking them can tell you a lot about the brain. Even small weirdness can mean something's up.
So, like, a quick check, but tons of info. What about the other ones mentioned? Romberg, Babinski, those ring a bell.
Romberg is balance. Stand with your feet together, eyes closed, and if you sway, could be cerebellum or inner ear problem. Babinski's reflexes. Toes fan out when you stroke the foot. Could mean brain or spinal cord issue, at least in adults.
Wow, simple stuff, but so much info about the nervous system, like clues to what's going on in the brain.
Exactly. And speaking of clues, let's get to the cranial nerves. The doc calls them your brain's direct lines. 12 pairs connecting straight to the brain, doing everything from smell, sight, to, face moving, tongue control.
So they skip the spinal cord, go right to the source. Of the 12, which ones are like the most interesting?
Well, the optic nerve, that's vision, takes info from the retina, sends it to the brain to become the images we see.
So not just light, but making sense of it. What about the other cranial nerves?
The facial nerve is cool. It's how we make all those expressions, smiling, frowning, all that. Makes our faces, well, expressive.
And what about the vagus nerve that came up before, talking about the medulla and like keeping us alive?
Vagus nerve, that's a big one in the autonomic nervous system, which we'll get to more in part two. It's regulating organs, heart rate, digestion, breathing, you name it.
Wow, the ultimate multitasker. This deep dive is really showing me how connected our mind and body are, and we've only scratched the surface.
Totally. So much more to discover. But let's take a break and come back for part two, where we'll go deeper into that autonomic nervous system and what it does.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
So back to the nervous system. Last time, big picture stuff, but now let's zoom in on this autonomic nervous system. Super important.
Okay, ready. It controls stuff we don't think about, right?
Hmm.
What's that mean exactly?
It's like your body's autopilot, always working, breathing, heart rate, digestion, temperature. You don't even have to think about it.
Like an orchestra, but you don't see the conductor. And we only notice when, like, something goes wrong.
Exactly. Heart suddenly racing or, oh, upset stomach, then you know something's off.
So how does this autopilot actually work?
Well, there's two parts. The sympathetic and parasympathetic systems, they got to balance each other out, kind of like a push and pull.
Okay, getting interesting. What's different between those two?
Okay, imagine you're walking alone, it's dark, and suddenly you hear footsteps behind you. Your heart's pounding, breath gets faster, adrenaline, right. That's your sympathetic system, getting you ready for fight or flight.
Whoa. Yeah, I get it. So sympathetic is all about, like, energy, getting ready when there's stress or danger.
Exactly. Heart rate, blood pressure up, blood to the muscles, even your pupils get bigger so you can see better, all to, you know, face the threat or run.
Our bodies are wild. But when the threat's gone, do we stay all amped up?
That's where parasympathetic comes in. It's like rest and digest time, calming everything back down.
Hitting the brakes after, like flooring it.
Yep. Heart rate slows, blood pressure down, digestion gets going, your body can relax, repair itself.
Makes me think stress and health, if we're always in that fight or flight mode, that's got to be bad.
You got it.
Yeah.
Chronic stress, yeah, really messes with you. And the autonomic system, it's part of why, always on edge. It messes with sleep, digestion, even your immune system.
Mind and body, totally connected. This doc mentions the medulla oblongata for heart rate and breathing. Does that tie into this autonomic thing?
Totally. Medulla, down in the brainstem, it's a key player. Gets info from both sympathetic and parasympathetic and, you know, coordinates what they do.
Like the control center. Speaking of, let's shift to cerebrospinal fluid, CSF. Sounds important for protecting the central nervous system.
It is. It's like a liquid cushion for the brain and spinal cord. Circulates around, protecting, nourishing.
Built-in shock absorber. Can't imagine my brain just rattling around in there.
Not good. But it does more than cushion. Removes waste, transports nutrients, hormones, always being made and reabsorbed, keeps it fresh for those, you know, really important parts.
Our bodies think of everything. So we got that. What else is there for protection? The doc mentions meninges too, right?
Right. The meninges, they're like 3 layers of membranes
Yeah.
around the brain and spinal cord. Extra security system, you know, against injury, infection.
Bodyguards for the central nervous system.
Exactly. And between two of the layers, there's a space. That's where the CSF flows.
Yeah.
Very clever design.
Okay, so cushioning, protection. Anything else for keeping the brain and spinal cord safe?
One more cool thing, the cauda equina.
Cauda equina, I've heard that. What is it again?
Literally means horse's tail. It's a bundle of spinal nerves, but they extend below where the spinal cord ends.
Wait, the spinal cord ends? I thought it went all the way down.
Nope. Ends around like the lower back, first or second lumbar vertebra.
So then how do the nerves for our legs and feet get the message if, like, the cord's done?
Cauda equina, that's how. It's like an extension cord, lets those nerves go further, reach the legs, the pelvic organs, all that.
Smart. Evolution figured it out. Everything's connected, controlled. It's like the nervous system is this huge, intricate web, all the neurons, the supporting cells, and they're making this whole symphony of, you know,
Yeah.
feeling, thought, action.
Beautiful way to put it. And we're
Yeah.
really just starting to understand it all.
Yeah, I'm ready for more. What else is there in part 3 about this amazing nervous system? All right, back for more.
We covered the nervous system, big picture, then the autonomic system, all the automatic stuff. What else is in this neuro review?
Well, now it's getting into, like, the tiny details. The neuron itself, how it works, all the parts.
Okay, going microscopic. We talked neurons before, but can we, like, unpack that?
Oh, yeah. Easy to forget when you're looking at the whole system, but each neuron, that's where it all happens, you know. How we think, do stuff, experience the world.
So remind me the main parts again?
Each one has a cell body, that's the, like, The control center keeps it alive, has the nucleus. Then there's dendrites. Those branch out. They receive signals from other neurons.
Right. Dendrites are the input, gathering info from the outside or other neurons.
Exactly. Covered in tiny receptors, kind of like antennas, but each one is for a specific signal, picks it up, sends it to the cell body.
And if the signal's strong enough, it triggers that electrical impulse, goes down the axon, that long fiber, neurons info highway. Good one. And don't forget, myelin, that fatty stuff, speeds it up.
So efficient. Even tiny stuff, it's all about speed, getting things right. The source mentions neurolemma. What's that do?
Neurolemma, it's a sheath, wraps around the axon, the myelin too, helps with repair. If the nerve gets damaged, which happens, neurons are sensitive.
So it like guides the regrowth. That's pretty cool. But how does the signal actually go from one neuron to the next? They're not touching.
Nope. At the end of the axon, you got these little branches, terminal end fibers, and they have these sacs. They're full of neurotransmitters.
Neurotransmitters, right. Those are the messengers, so neurons can talk across the synapse, that gap.
Exactly. Electrical impulse hits the end. Those neurotransmitters get released into the synapse. Then they bind to the next neuron, new impulse, and it all starts again.
Like a chain reaction, but with signals, electrical and chemical. Trillions of them.
And happening constantly all over your nervous system. That's how you have thoughts, emotions, everything that makes you you.
Makes me think of those optical illusions. You see one thing, then your brain flips it. Is that kind of like this neuron communication, but bigger?
Good connection. Those illusions, they show that it's not just about seeing, it's what your brain does with that info. Sensation and perception, all these neurons working together.
The doc also mentions ganglia. What are those? Part of this communication network.
Ganglia, they're groups of neuron cell bodies, but outside the central nervous system, like relay stations coordinating signals, especially in the peripheral system.
Like mini brains all over, keeping things running without the brain needing to do everything.
That's the idea. Faster reflexes, more control, right there where it's needed.
Like when you touch something hot, hand jerks back before you even feel it. Ganglia doing their thing.
Exactly. Those super fast reflexes, often ganglia, are involved.
Okay, last thing about neurons. Glial cells. What are they up to?
Glial cells, people forget about them, but they're super important. They don't send signals themselves, but they're like the support system, keeping the neurons working.
So if neurons are the stars, glial cells are backstage, making sure the show goes on.
That's it. Structure, keeping the right chemicals around, making myelin, even helping with repair. Unsung heroes, for sure.
Well, this deep dive has been amazing. Nervous system big and small. It's incredible how much is going on inside us all the time.
It is. And we're just starting to understand it. How the brain makes consciousness, emotions, memories, everything that makes us human.
Makes you realize how much we don't know, but it's so exciting. We got a good foundation here, but now I want to learn even more.
That's the best part. The more we learn, the more amazing it all seems. And it makes you want to take care of this, this brain and body we got.
Absolutely. This knowledge is power, right? Helps us make good choices about our health. So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity going, keep asking questions, keep being amazed by your own nervous system.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this journey, everyone. Keep exploring that world inside you and the world around you.